You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry Sanderson on Tide 100.9 in Tuscaloosa.
Braves knock off the NL Central leading Brewers 6-2. Padres down the NL West leading Dodgers 8-1. And in a battle of wildcard teams, it was the Twins over the Mets 8-3.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
And good morning and welcome into Thursday edition of Inside the Locker Room. 205-342-9904 is the phone number if you'd like to jump in on the show with us this morning. Our X accounts at Locker Room 109, at Barry Sanderson, at Wimp Sanderson 1. Email for the show is wimpandbarry@yahoo.com. Feel free to shoot us an email. If you want to download that Tide 100.9 app, and that will allow you to take us with you anywhere you go. Yellowwood pressure-treated pine from Great Southern. If it doesn't have the yellow tag on it, then believe me, you don't want it. Go to yellowwood.com to find the dealer that is closest to you. All right, Alabama, I need to look at the rules of practice. I know there's certain acclimation periods to get acclimated to the heat where they're not just in helmets out there. They'll progress as it goes, but there's written rules probably about how long you can practice. Used to go 2 a day. Those are over with. It looked like to me that I guess they're only allowed them to go 2 hours the first few days to get acclimated, but it sounded like they had a good practice yesterday for the first day. We'll hear some of Coach DeBoer here later on in the show. Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm okay. It's changed from when I was growing up and doing things when I first came to the university. Money's changed, gone from $15 a month to millions. Time of practice, you went twice a day. You went in the heat, you went in the mornings too. And in between the morning practice and the afternoon practice, you had meetings all day long. You never had time to get in trouble because you were too tired or too busy. So as we go through life has changed a lot. Maybe some things that we do are for the betterment. Some things that we do, I think, are probably not. But people probably sound like an old fogey, but those are maybe old fogey rules back then, but they were, I thought, good rules. Most of you know the United States beat South Sudan. The band played well. Tatum had not started the game before, so they mashed them pretty good. The Braves win 6-2 against the Brewers. Florida State's been picked to win the ACC, and Ohio State has been picked to win the Big Ten. The clearest path to winning the SEC, I'm not saying they will, but the clearest path to win the SEC, I think, is maybe Texas. We'll see what happens there. Gymnastics, also in the today we'll have Biles and Lee head-to-head with each other for gold medal, and we'll also start with golf today, which is a little bit uninteresting and not as interesting as it should be. When I look around and think about basketball talk, which shouldn't be much of that, but it's hard for me to look at and see Musselman talking to his squad at Southern Cal. And this is just the case of a guy picking players that weren't good off the court, and he couldn't get them good on the court. And they didn't get together, and they went from being picked second or third or where it was to where they didn't do anything. So you got to know what you're doing when you get people. We welcome your calls. JC is very good, and he'll be on this first hour, and certainly we'll continue to talk Alabama football or all football, because I know that's what you want to hear. But we'll give you call in, and I hope we can help you some. That's it.
All right, I think the practice rules are. I'm looking here, and I don't know about the first couple of days. I think maximum it's saying 4 hours a day. I don't know if they'll use that, saying you have to take 1 day off a week. So students cannot miss class for practice. So that's why they'll schedule all their crap. But the university does not start till the third week of August. So, then they'll have to start combining not only practicing but going to class. So this is probably the best time for those guys. They can eat, train, watch film, practice, don't have to worry about class and all those things. There's a lot of talk about Chase. I know you've heard it because you have to do a lot of these shows, and you're going to hear a lot of repeat stuff now throughout, because everybody just wants to talk about Alabama football, which is fine, is about what the defensive coordinator and the strength coach and all were wearing. And I don't think anybody's figured it out yet. They had on full sweatsuits out there, and they're doing that, guys, so the players don't complain about it being hot. So they'll say, we'll put on all this and we'll sweat just as much as you. So that's kind of sending them, I'm assuming, I don't know this 100%, but they're putting that on to send a message to the players. Yeah, we know it's hot out here. We got all this stuff on as well. I don't think Coach DeBoer had all that on. Maybe some of those guys are trying to lose some weight as well. But I think it's more to send the players a message. They say these guys, this Kane Womack, Dad, I didn't get to get out there because we were just ending our show as the media period, but he was very aggressive on the practice field, and that Coach DeBoer spent the majority of his time with the offense and the quarterback. So I think it's going to kind of be Coach Womack's baby there, the defense, and to run the defensive staff. And just your thoughts about the way these guys are dressed. People are making a big deal about that, but I think Coach DeBoer spent most of his time with the offense.
Now, what did they have on again? I'm sorry.
Full sweatsuits. Chase helped me here. I think they talked about the long pants, long sleeve shirts, some guy in a sweatshirt and a vest. And so
They thought they were in Washington, didn't they?
No, I don't think they thought that. I think they're just trying to send these players a message. Yeah, it's hot out here, but we got all this stuff on as well, and let's don't complain about the heat. I think there's a hidden message, or maybe they told them that. There's a message behind them dressing like that for practice, I'm sure. So, and then the other thing is the media. I wish the media wouldn't do this, Chase and Dad. They try to figure out who's going to be the starter. So-and-so ran out there first, so that must mean they're the starter. Stop doing that. And then the other thing is, there's an article in AL.com about the practice. Some things you don't print. Like if there's a defensive coordinator is out there and he uses the F-bomb 2 or 3 times, you don't have to print that. There's no reason. It's out there. Those guys if you start printing stuff like that, a guy that's using profanity, coaching his players, and you start putting your articles, then if I'm Alabama, I'm going to say, all right, that's it. I'm going to stop letting these guys come out here. You have a little common sense about what you see, but you don't have to write everything. And if a guy's using the F word out there as an assistant, we all know that happens on the field. I don't think you need to put it in the newspaper. That's my opinion.
The biggest problem that you have is that the one thing they're looking for is for you to either agree or disagree with the headline. And when they try to give you something that if you agree, you read it to see and you agree. If you disagree, you're anxious to read it and disagree. They're looking for agreements and disagreements, just as some of these people that do radio shows and crush everybody. If you'll notice, they'll pick out somebody and try to crush them before practice ever starts in order for you to start listening to their show or reading their crap. So I think you're right. There's no point getting too down to earth with them. You just talk about how the practices went. And if you want to talk about, if you want to get into some disagreements, you can say that talk about how the practices were different and
yeah.
Coaches were. This is what they did now. When Coach was here, they did this and that, and if they lose, you can give the reasons why they lost. You won't give as many reasons why they won, because the expectation factor is you're supposed to win, and the games that you win, that you play prior to the Georgia game, will be disappointments if you lose. And if you go up north to Wisconsin and get beat, then it'll be a lot of talk. So
yeah, if I'm Kane Womack and I'm coaching my guys hard, the guy doesn't have to print every word I say to my guys. Like I'm trying to coach. I don't want to have to coach guarded. But if you're going to print everything I say to these guys that are college students, if you're going to print everything I say to them, then I'm going to tell my SID don't have those guys around me when I'm coaching these guys, because I don't want that out there. You got to have a little common sense about what you put out there. Now you can say he coached them hard, he was getting after them, but to use the language that the guy put in the article here on the AL.com, to me is uncalled for. People can call, you can disagree, maybe that's the stuff you want to read, but as a coach, I don't want that out there. And so if it continues to be out there, I'm going to tell the guy, hey, keep these guys away from my situation. All right, we'll take the break here. You guys can call and agree or disagree on that if you want. 205-342-9904. 2-minute truck. They're at 1330 Martin Road East. That's where you go pick up your boxes, your packing supplies, whatever you need to make this a smooth move. As local, out of town, out of state, no problem. Let the professionals handle it. They'll take great care of you and your stuff. Give them a call today for the free estimates. 205-247-5050. 2-minute truck. Movers who care.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. A quick check of our drive times. Doesn't show anything unexpected. Eastbound 2059 from Foster's to McFarland, clocking in at 8 minutes. 8 minutes on the westbound side as well from Cottondale to the I-359 interchange. The trip along McFarland from Coker to Jack Warner is 12 minutes. And Lurling Wallace coming down from Northport from McFarland to the 15th Street exit, just a 4-minute drive. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Here's what's trending on the Tuscaloosa thread.
Good Thursday morning. A heat advisory continues through 9 o'clock tonight for all of the state of Alabama. A heat index could reach up to 109 degrees today. So limit your time outdoors, stay hydrated, and don't leave humans or pets in an unattended vehicle.
Nissan is your #1 dealer, and they'll beat any written offer or pay you $1,000. Keeping you #1 keeps Townsend Nissan #1. See dealer for details.
The Alabama Securities Commission protects you from financial fraud. Anyone asking you for investment money must be licensed. You're careful with your money. Fraudsters aren't. Before you invest, call our hotline at 1-800-222-1253 to verify the licensing of the person making an offer and the product. Don't lose your
bowel disease research and care for over 50 years. Learn more about research, education, and support at Crohn's Colitis Foundation.org.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance and is backed by an entire team of people you know and trust. Rent a Toyota and let's go places. Reserving yours is a breeze at TuscaloosaToyota.com.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. A heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Heat index values today approaching 110. It's going to be partly cloudy, hot and humid with a high near 97. A few isolated storms may form in the I-59 corridor early this afternoon. They'll push to the southeast. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a low near 77. And tomorrow, mostly sunny and hot again with a high near 98. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Need to know what's going on with the Crimson Tide? Then subscribe to our YouTube channel for exclusive content on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. You want to find Yellowwood, go to yellowwood.com, put that zip code in. The closest dealer will come up to you. And then you can go build that 5-star backyard, the fence, the deck, the pergola. Is only one choice, and that would be Yellowwood. All right, to the Yellowwood hotline, get Tom in. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Barry. Good morning, Coach. Barry, there are two large oxymorons in the United States of America. The largest one is Central Intelligence Agency. That is a freaking oxymoron if there ever was one.
Yeah.
The second largest oxymoron is to use the phrase common sense in the same sentence as AL.dumb. Please, Barry, give me a freaking break. I mean, do not associate those two items together. There is never been a worse publication in the history of newspapers than AL.dumb. You need to get that in your head.
So you agree with me?
I do. They're stupid. And to go and print every freaking thing you see because you got an axe to grind against Alabama and you want to throw any kind of shade and gaslight them in everything you do, there you go, Skarbinski and company.
Well, this wasn't Skarbinski that wrote this.
Because he's part of it.
You can go.
I know you don't want to hear it, but
I think Skarbinski's a good writer. And I'm not saying this guy's not a good writer.
I respect that. You have said many times and defended your position with him. I respect that. I don't agree with him.
Sorry.
I don't know whether I like him or not. I don't care about that.
Yeah, I just don't. If they give you access to practice, and the defensive coordinator is out there coaching his guys hard, and he uses profanity, I don't think you need to print that in the AL.com. I just think you got to have better sense than that.
That's the wrong word for them. I promise you. No, I'm not going to do that. You've got class. I'm gonna let you maintain that.
Because what will happen is, they give you access, and then maybe King Walmart don't care. But I know he's probably got kids and this, that, and the other. So to put that in the paper, what will happen is they'll start limiting your access. All right, so they give you all this access, and then
today.
Yeah.
Pull their condition. Don't let AL.dumb on the freaking campus of the University of Alabama tell them to go where they want to go, Auburn.
All right, Dad, any comment on that?
No, it's I understand where he's coming from. It's these writers I dealt with them a long time ago, and
you sure did. And you know what? We complained the whole damn time that they were doing it too.
Well, I don't think the article's bad. I think there's a better way to write it. I mean, he's trying to show you the intensity that these guys are coaching with, which is fine. But you don't have to. I don't know. Maybe nobody even cares about that.
Hold up. That's the strategy.
Okay.
You start out and you got a good article going, but let me slide some derogatory crap in here. Let me get my shot in. I'm the media. I've got power, and I'm going to use it. That's all that is.
You're thinking about a lot deeper than I am. I'm not.
I've been reading them for years. Obviously, you hadn't been keeping up with them like I do.
Well, I've been gone for a while, so.
That's what I'm saying there, and I don't mean that derogatory.
No, I'm not taking it that
way. I'm saying, every day I get up, I read the papers. I try to stay informed. I love to read. And I want to
get your take on this. We have some people that are messaging me saying that I'm making too big of a deal, and which I don't know that I am, about Auburn flipping these recruits and Alabama not having any of the top 10. Hey, you go where the players are. They got the number 2 recruiting class in the country. So whatever they're doing right. So who cares where they're from? Is it a big deal that Alabama doesn't have any of the top 10 players in the state of Alabama right now committed?
Well, here's my take, Barry. Auburn's going to get their share of in-state players, and most of the time it's going to come down where can I get on the field the quickest?
Yeah,
playing time.
True.
I think that's part of it, and I think that's a big factor. Now, as you have stated, Coach has stated, NIL plays a part in it, and that's in it too. But I don't think I think you were spot on with that, and with saying the momentum in state has kind of favored Auburn here lately. I agree with that, and I don't think you want that. But at the same time, I brought up yesterday that the thing that troubled me was they didn't even have Alabama in their top 5. That bothered me. Whether they come to Alabama or not, that means they didn't consider them. And you said they wasn't prioritized, so I go with that.
I don't know whether they were or not. I think if Alabama prioritized you, then you're going to be in the top 2 or 3. Now, they may, there's a difference between recruiting and offering. There's a big difference, and I think people don't understand that. Just because they bring guys in, that don't mean they offer them a scholarship. He may have been their 5th guy at that position, and they got who they want, and usually they're not going to get to the 5th guy. So, anyway, thank you, Tom.
Okay. Thank you, Barry.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll get back up to the Yellowwood hotline, and we got our man. Well, he's putting him on. All right, we'll get right to the Yellowwood hotline, get Pat in. Good morning, Pat.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, I will be happy to work the gate for him for free at practice, and anybody that says anything that a coach says other than what a coach says in an interview, I will be happy to pull their credentials and march their butt right back to the car.
So you agree with me, Pat?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%. They have no business printing anything that a coach says on the sideline. I mean, it was bad enough what they did to poor Coach Saban. I mean, his children and all, and grandchildren and things. That was one of the reasons that Miss Terry probably made him quit.
Yeah, I don't know. Dad, any comment on that? These guys just watch it, observe, but don't say what they're saying to the players. That's not for print. Some things are not for print.
Well, you're gonna get ideas on that, and all of them agree with you, but you're not going to get it done.
Yeah.
They're going to do it because they think that the most important thing with the people above them is to be darn sure that you read their writing.
Hey, Coach, it's like this, though. Hey, I can make that happen, but just because they think they got freedom of the press, they do not. They got freedom of the press to sit their ass on the sideline. Excuse my French. I'm sorry I said bad word.
You're doing what I said the guy did in the article. No, I'm just teasing. That's well, I don't know. I agree. I think Coach DeBoer wants the media to have access. And I think that's a good thing. And he wants you to have access to the coordinators, give you access to the players. And I think some common sense is going to have to be put into this thing on what you put out there and what you don't. And maybe that's a situation where the SIDs have to get I know they had a meeting with them the other day to kind of go over, but I don't know. Maybe I'm making too big a deal.
Because of Coach's personality, Caden's personality, the coming down on him won't be as difficult as it was on Coach Saban until he loses a game. He will be able to pretty much handle them in the things he does on the radio shows that he does after practice. He'll start in a few days. So with that, they're not going to come down on him as hard as the head coach. So they're looking for stuff to all writers are looking for something to make you read it.
Well, one of the things too, Pat, is it looks like to me, I think Coach DeBoer is more of kind of a laid back, kind of always in a good mood. So you don't hire a bunch of guys that are like you. You hire some fiery guys that kind of like Kane Womack, it sounds like. And here's Shepard. Those are pretty fiery guys. So you don't go hire your personality. You hire guys that kind of offset, that bring out your strength so you have a little bit of everything there. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I also think in coaching defense becomes a little bit more of a fiery situation than coaching offense.
Yeah.
I think
absolutely, Coach. You're dead on as your days. Hey, when you get that plaid jacket off and start slinging it around, hey, you had to do it. You had to get them fired up. You might have lost the ball game.
Yeah. Hey, Kirby was emotional over there when he was a defensive coordinator. Them guys were fiery, and I think you want your defensive coordinator fiery. Now, like Will Muschamp was fiery as a defensive coordinator, but he was also fiery as a head coach. And sometimes I don't think you make calm decisions when you're so erratic on the sidelines as the head coach. I think there's a difference between the coordinator being fiery and the head coach not being.
I don't think you. And I think any of that kind of fire stuff, you can overdo it.
Sure.
No doubt.
Well, if you do it every single day, every day, then it starts to wear. So you got to pick your spots there.
Hey, Coach Sampson, how many times did you not finish coaching a ball game?
What do you mean by that? Not
where did they kick you out on the technical?
Only one.
Only one? Oh.
Yeah, I got kicked out against Bobby Knight.
Yeah, he left me there to coach against Bobby Knight. Man, that wasn't very, and we were in Arkansas Little Rock. So.
Hey, man, I love me some Bobby Knight. Night school. If I had a son, I would. Even today, if he was alive, everything, I would take him to night school for darn sure, because the things you can learn from Bobby Knight were not measurable.
No doubt about it. He had a lot of friends, a lot of enemies.
Yeah, he'd use a little profanity. He'd use a little profanity at you, Pat.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Oh well, hey, throwing chairs, whatever he had to do, you know. Hey, but he fired them up, though.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, y'all have a blessed day.
Yeah, he's scared.
All right, yeah, Pat. I think you should be the one out there working the gate with getting. And if they do something you don't like, just pull their credentials. They walk out.
Absolutely, I'll darn sure do it and won't charge a dime.
Thank you, sir.
Double whammy. Basically double or nothing.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/creditcard.
Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. I want to thank Yellowwood for bringing you this 7 o'clock hour. Get right to the Yellowwood hotline. He's the owner of thebigspur.com. Got several podcasts he'll tell you about at the end of the segment. He also has a website there, Shurb Nation, SHURB Nation.com. So you can go check that out as well. JC, we lost JC. Maybe we got to get JC back there. Let JC go? He gone. All right, we got to get him back. Anyway, there's new practice rules. I guess I'm sitting here. Reduce live tackling or thud practices from 4 to 3 a week. That ensure 3 non-contact or minimal contact practices per week. So they're not getting to hit a ton in college football in practice anymore. And I don't know, maybe that's why your tackling's not as good, because you only tackle dummies so much. But they obviously have to have the 1 day off per week. There's no more 2-a-days. So I think we're just about to get JC back here. But
well, I think we have put everything that we've done, from off the field stuff to on the field stuff, in favor of the players.
Yeah.
I think that's the big thing.
All right, we got JC. You with us? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing? Good to be with you this morning.
We're doing good. We were just talking about how they, I hear some of the older football players, they laugh at how easy these guys got it now. Alabama had their first practice yesterday. It was a 2-hour practice. Normally these guys in the past, a while ago, they were going 2-a-days. Man, Tuscaloosa right now, it is hot out there, but they limit how many times they can tackle, how much can go on there. How much has practice changed from back in the early 2000s to what it is now? It's all for player safety, JC, right?
Yeah, well, they did away with 2-a-days. I think player safety, injuries, you have a lot of advancements in year-round training, too. So, whereas back when you used to have 2-a-days, you're basically beating your guys into shape, right? They got to get in football shape. So, 2-a-days are probably necessary with the training programs they have now, the nutrition, all that good stuff. I mean, these guys arrive at camp in good shape. So I think all that's a factor. I do think that as a little bit of the toughness gone out of the game, yeah. I mean, you can't deny that. But it's all about player safety, and you're right. I think that there are forces at work that are mostly political that want to, really emphasize the risk of playing football over the benefit. Anything in life, there's benefit and risk. I don't see people trying to cancel hockey, right?
Yeah.
But it's probably just because it's something that a lot of people that don't vote the way they do really like. So you got to ward against that, especially when there's media and everybody else on the other side. And you got to make sure you are, as a sport, doing everything you can do for player safety. And I think that's part of it, especially with college and all that. I mean, these guys still are doing football all day before school starts. It's just a lot of meetings and walkthroughs and then the 2-hour practice.
Yep.
I don't think it's interesting people who's going to beat who right now. I think that's corny crap. But I do think, looking at the schedules and teams and the coaches and so forth, that I would not be surprised in this first year with 16 teams to see Texas win the whole thing. When I see the whole thing, I'd say the SEC. Ohio State is selected in Big Ten, Florida State, and ACC. If I had to select them, and I don't, I wouldn't be surprised to see Texas be the winner.
Well, Texas on paper certainly is a good team. They're a good team every year on paper. I think the next step for them and the problem they've had, even last year, when you'd see them one week go out and dominate a Big 12 opponent like they should because they've got twice as many good players one week, and then the next week they're struggling with Kansas State and a down TCU team and winning by a field goal. I mean, they're scaring the bejesus out of them. You know what? If you do that in the SEC, you're going to lose. I mean, because these teams are too good. I mean, the 8th place team in the SEC is just as good as Kansas State talent-wise, and the coaches are too good. And so if Texas is consistent, I think yes, absolutely. But if they just kind of show up and for Georgia and show up for Oklahoma and they don't show up for Mississippi State or everybody except Vandy, they could take some unexpected losses this year. And I say that just because that's been their history as a program since 2009. It's 15 years of that kind of stuff where you're ready to believe Texas is going to be really good, and then the next thing you know, they're losing to Baylor or whoever else. So, this ain't Baylor. I mean, this is big boy football, and so culturally, that would be my question about them. And I don't doubt they're talented enough, and I don't mind people picking them, but I do think that there is something that program is not a ride. They still have to prove something. I mean, heck, they lost to Washington in the semis last year. They probably shouldn't have. So we'll see what happens, but that would be what I would look for when it comes to Texas, as far as getting not just the big games, but getting up for all the games, which is what you have to do in this league if you're going to win it.
JC, I guess it's coming. Football is going to 105 scholarships, which is plenty. I think the main concern there is recruiting guys. If you want to only have 90 and you take 15 walk-ons to get to your 105, is guys understanding what their role is. I think when you had the walk-ons, those guys kind of knew that they were scout teamers, and obviously if they played well, they could work their way into maybe the 3 deep chart and keep working their way up. But they kind of knew their role. If you go out and get 105 guys and you put them on all scholarship and they're all 4 and 5 and maybe some 3-star, those guys are going to all expect to play, which I think causes you problems in the locker room. You're always dealing with issues. How would you handle this 105?
Yeah, it's going to balloon the transfer portal, too. Interesting enough, we talked to Ray Tanner, the athletic director of Carolina, yesterday on my Gamecock show, and he made it sound like it's a possibility the SEC gets together and says, here's what we're going to do with that, and they'll set a league-wide standard. In other words, SEC may stay at 85, go to 90, and have 15 walk-ons or whatever. I also could see a situation where to keep the walk-on program, maybe make it a little more spicy, because walk-ons are always competing for roster spots. There's probably 40, 50 walk-ons to try out, and 10, 15 make it. There's preferred walk-ons, things like that. Like in baseball, you have a bunch of walk-ons, and they compete for roster spots, and people get cut. Well, if a scholarship's at stake, I think that's going to up the ante a little bit, don't you guys, as far as the value of that roster spot?
Yeah.
So maybe there is a way to actually give the full allotment, but to preserve the walk-on program. But Ray made it sound to us like, and he knows that this is something that's going to be decided at the conference level, and kind of figured out by the league, which I think is good. The problem you're going to run into is these other leagues, the Big 12 may look at it and say, okay, this is our shot. If the SEC is only going to sign 90 recruits or 90 scholarship players and reserve 15 for walk-ons, we're going to go with the full 105. And then over time, that gives our rosters a chance to compete against the SEC.
Yeah.
Because roster spots in football, it's all about odds. And the more balls you have in the lottery bin, the more bigger your chances of winning. So if you got 105 compared to 90, that's 15 more balls. So your chances of winning are better. And that's what recruiting rankings are. They're basically odds. And so that's the problem, is that it's not necessarily what I think the SEC will do. It's what everybody else will do. And then the SEC is put in a position where competitively they're at a disadvantage. And they're not going to do anything that puts any of their schools at a competitive disadvantage.
Yeah, I had an athletic director tell me, too, he didn't know they'd go to 105 because if you put 105 guys on scholarship, you're going to have to revenue share with 105. Where if you only put 90, then those other 15, they don't have to necessarily revenue share. That's a lot of money, man. You talk about 20 more scholarships and then having a revenue share with 20 more guys. So that may be a factor in this all, too, couldn't it, JC?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, money is the driving issue. Some schools, a lot of times it depends on how your school's set up, too. Some schools require athletics to fund the athletic scholarships. In other words, the athletics department writes a check or the booster club funds it, like in South Carolina for a long time, the Gamecock Club. That primarily they give their money back to fund the scholarships. Other schools, that's on the academic end. And the school itself, which many of these are multi-billion-dollar-a-year enterprises, they can afford it, just cover this comp. Basically, it's like a comp. They just comp the scholarship, your own scholarship, whatever. So that's interesting, too. I think, and that'll be part of the discussion as far as, like, the funding of the scholarships and where does that funding come from, and will it drain athletic resources or not?
Yeah, that.
For both of you, again, explain to our listeners, I've had a couple of texts, explain to our listeners about the ruling in football, about the walk-ons, no walk-ons, the numbers. Go over that with us, please.
Well, I'll try it, and then, JC, you can have 100. It's a card cap at 105. So, and you can now break up the scholarships. Let's say they could give 85 fulls and say, all right, we're going to give 20 guys just tuition. They could do that. They just can't go over the 105. They want to give all 105 a full scholarship. They can do that. They just can't have 100 and 110. So they can work out the 105 however they want to. Fulls, partials, whatever. It's just
but there will be no more. There will be no more walk-on.
Well, they could make it a walk-on. They could say we're only going to fund scholarships for 90 guys, so 15 of you are going to have to be walk-ons.
Yeah.
Go ahead, JC. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh no. Basically, there's no more scholarship limits. It's roster limits.
Yes.
In other words, you can only have, like in football, you only have 105 on the roster. And if you want to give all of them scholarships, fine. If you want to give 50, fine. That's up to you. And I think if you left it in the hands of the individual schools, it would be a mess. So I think, and Ray hinted at this, it's going to probably be made at the conference level. You're going to sit there and see, with football specifically, He also mentioned that it's going to force a lot of athletic departments to look what's called tier sports. In other words, here are the sports that really matter here. Here are the sports in tier 2. Here are the sports in tier 3. And you allocate funding for scholarships accordingly. So you may have a school that de-emphasizes women's soccer, for example. I doubt any women's sports are getting de-emphasized. Men's swimming, okay? And so all of a sudden you had 6 scholarships for men's swimming. Now you only got 2 because they're tier 3. And he thinks, and I don't know if it applies in Carolina or what schools, but he thinks there are some schools that are going to have to start tiering sports as far as the allocation for funding goes.
Yeah. Answer me this, JC, because I know you're in the NIL world. It sounds like to me the collectives are going to go away and it's going to have to be a true NIL. So a lot of guys are getting a bunch of money now that they may not can get anymore, because if you have a committee that has to approve any NIL deal over $600, I don't know, is there somebody in the NCAA that's going to approve? Is that done within the school? If it's turned in, then it's investigated. But just giving guys money out of the collective, that's going away, right? So guys could possibly lose a lot of money in that situation.
Well, and there's some folks that have a stake or a vested interest in NIL as far as it being their full-time job that are raising holy cane about it right now. And that's fine. It's not my full-time job. I never made a dime off doing NIL. Not a freaking penny. In fact, I lost money doing it. But so I don't care. I think, number one, it's very sneaky of the NCAA and everyone else to tuck that in. That's very sneaky, okay? And it shows you that, those people are they're going to cling to power no matter what in Indianapolis. Is it a good rule for the sport? Absolutely.
I agree.
I'm with you, Barry. Who's going to decide this? Because in our society today, I call it the death of the expert. Experts are usually biased as they're not really experts. You may have one that believes one value of one thing, one that believes another. It all kind of goes back to politics in our divided country these days. So who are these experts they're going to hire? That's my question. And will they use common sense? Because so many expert panels do not. And it's the NCAA. And there's no common sense there. So I would hope what they would do was partner with the private sector, a third-party marketing firm, pay them a bunch of money to have their marketing professionals make the valuation and go with it, and with a range, and be sensible. As far as the collectives go, unless the collective is actually facilitating NIL deals, like true NIL deals, I could see those going the way of the dodo bird. I really could, because what you're going to have is you're not going to have the big money come out of NIL. It's going to come out of rev share. Everybody's going to be the same with a cap. So schools are going to – it's almost like pro ball. They're going to have to determine how everything fits. And you're not just going to have Texas A&M with unlimited NIL money. Now, that said, I do think NIL can give you a leg up. You're just not talking about the dollar amounts. You're not talking about $20 million in NIL. You're probably talking about
how much are you talking about to each player?
Yeah, like when the revenue shared, JC, can Alabama say, you know what, we're going to give most of ours to the football guys and basketball? The other sports, you're just not bringing in any revenue. Could Auburn do it different, or is it going to be across the board in the SEC? Hey, Jalen Milroe's getting this, so Peyton Thorne's getting this. How does that work?
What's the figure now, Barry?
Well, yeah, I think the individual programs are going to determine how to allot their piece of the pie. Now, what is their piece of the pie? Well, if we're being fair and we're being American about it, it should mostly go to football, because they're the ones bringing in the revenue. But you already have these Title IX zealots out here, and Ray did mention that could be a factor. South Carolina's got a bunch of women's sports, so if you have to be equal with everything, and he was more talking about scholarships than the actual rev share, and if you get sued and lose, and there's certain courts you will lose because they don't understand sports, and again, it's all political, you could end up having to split it with the girls. And everybody being it, can't give more to football than women's basketball, which would be a disaster if you include the NIL thing. I think at that point, that lawsuit settlement's going to get thrown out. You're going to get your pants sued off yet again. We're going to go through more litigation. And so I don't know. I think that it depends on Title IX. If there's no Title IX implications, if people are fair and use their brain, okay, and say the programs that bring in the most revenue, they're the ones, that's how we tier it up. You don't have to turn a profit, okay? Women's basketball at certain schools loses between $5 and $7 million a year. So it's not turning a profit, it's their revenue. We're looking at gross, not net. And you determine it that way. And I think that's perfectly fair. And in that case, like at Georgia, they're $22 million, probably about 18 of it would go to Kirby. I think that would be the case at most SEC schools. 2 or 3 to men's basketball, $500,000 to baseball, then you split the rest between women's sports accordingly. So that's if it's fair, that's what'll happen. I don't think it's going to be fair though, because again, you have people out there with these philosophies that make zero sense. They're downright un-American, and they're going to end up pressing this Title IX thing based on something that really has nothing to do with higher education. It's athletics revenue. So I don't have faith that we'll end up with an equitable solution to this. I think it's going to get political with more litigation because then your football players are going to turn around and sue the NCAA for limiting NIL opportunities.
Yeah.
And that's not going to work either.
Yeah.
Is there a limit on NIL money now? Did you say?
No, there's not a limit, but anything, I think I heard this, and the NCAA got this in the settlement, anything over $600, which I guess that's when it's taxable, if it's over $600, have to be approved. So now they can just kind of do their deals and nothing has to be approved. But they're saying it has to be. Am I right about that, JC? Am I saying that correctly?
Oh, yeah. It'll go through like a clearinghouse, and if you violate that, then they can come and pop you and get you in trouble. I think it's a great plan. I mean, I think what it does is it makes NIL what it is, and it closes the loopholes. It gets, it evens the playing field because you're not, somewhat. I mean, your SEC schools obviously are going to have more revenue, Big Ten more revenue because of television, but it evens the playing field to where you don't have A&M paying a baseball player $800,000 freaking dollars to come back to school.
Yeah.
The days of that will be over. But, and it also kind of puts the onus on the player. Are you brandable? Are you marketable? What's your social media following? And some guys can score $1 million deals. If they're that popular, Arch Manning, those guys can do that. But it'll be more of a true valuation, I think, and get back to what the intent of the rule is, which is these guys can capitalize on their name, image, likeness, and all that good stuff with some compliance and kind of getting the booster money out of that section.
I just think you almost have to do it on each campus. Like they have to kind of monitor it. If you send every NIL deal to the NCAA, good Lord, I mean,
you will get through.
There's no way. Yeah. You'd have to have 500,000 people in there working to clear all that.
It takes forever for them, and they don't give a flip about anybody else's timeline but their own. That's why I think getting the private sector involved, whether that, and I think it's got to be uniform, Barry, because, okay, if you're Alabama and you contract with a company and they determine the valuation on NIL for their players, they inflate it and they sign off on it. But then you got Nazis at another school that says, no, and they're by the book and by the law. It's kind of the same concept as compliance departments. Some compliance departments realize their paychecks are signed by the university. Some think they work for the NCAA, that they're like moles, right? The mole. So I think the bottom line is it really does need to be national and uniform. They're just going to have to come up with the money to contract with someone from the private sector, a big marketing firm or whatever. They're going to have to hire enough people, expedite all the processes, and get it done. I mean, you're probably dealing with that, I don't know, how many, 200 schools or so that really have true NIL opportunities.
Yeah.
So it's probably not going to be that big of a deal. But, yeah, the NCAA shouldn't handle it, and I'm against the schools handling it too, because just judging from my experience and 20 years of doing this with compliance departments, you know, like I said, half of them understand the job. Half of them think they work for the CIA.
No, we could go all day with you, JC. Tell everybody where they can find you.
All right, we just dropped a new JC and Morgan. Jacob Crane from Crane & Company joined us yesterday. Go to jcandmorgan.com, download the Chief Sports app. We talked a lot about Auburn and Auburn's recruiting lately, and talked about the SEC, Nick Saban's departure. Very good interview. Went through a lot of different topics with myself and Mike Morgan from ESPN and the SEC Network.
Thank you, JC.
Thanks, JC.
Thanks, fellas. Y'all be good.
Talk to you next week. All right. We'll take this break. It's the Tide 100.9 and 1230 AM WTBC is the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Quiet ride all around the region this morning as we don't have any major accidents or breakdowns or particularly heavy backups to contend with. If you're traveling 2059 from Foster's to Cottondale, the drive on McFarland from Buell and Coker down to U of A and I-20 beyond that, and Lurling Wallace across the Hugh Thomas Bridge all remains in good shape so far with just minimal backup. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Go inside the Alabama Crimson Tide with the Gary Harris Show.
Hey, it's Gary Harris. Thursday morning at 9 a.m. on the Gary Harris Show. We're going to be talking Alabama football. Practice is underway. We'll hear from the head coach, Kalen DeBoer. He met with the media on Wednesday. And also, Mark Everett, who competed in the 1988, 1992, and 2000 Olympic Games in track and field, is going to join us to talk Olympics. And Jeff Spiegel, our buddy from ABC 3340 as well. Plus your phone calls. A jam-packed Thursday edition.
Fincher and Osmond to the rescue.
I'm Tom Osmond, your jeweler at Fincher and Osmond Jewelers. Not so easy to find on McFarland, between Edgar's and local routes.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. A heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Heat index values today approaching 110. It's going to be partly cloudy, hot and humid with a high near 97. A few isolated storms may form in the I-59 corridor early this afternoon. They'll push to the southeast. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a low near 77. And tomorrow, mostly sunny and hot again with a high near 98. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
For more from Tide 100.9,
let's it fly and burns it.
Whoa. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and SoundCloud.
All right, we'll take this top of the hour break. Phone lines are open 205-342-9904. We've got Lance Cormier join us 8:15. Talk a little college baseball and MLB with Lance. New rules in baseball as well. And so we'll visit with Lance. We'll also hear from Kalen DeBoer, who had obviously a press.
Not available in every state, subject to terms and conditions. Rating factors and savings vary, and in some states your rate could increase with high-risk driving. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
No matter how high the mercury rises, call Ox Home Services today at 205-979-0946 or visit oxhomeservices.com.
WTBC Tuscaloosa and W265CG Tuscaloosa, a Town Square media station. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
From the Fox Sports Studios in Los Angeles, here's Eddie Garcia.
Some breaking news out of the NFL where the Tampa Bay Buccaneers signed offensive tackle Tristan Wirfs to a 5-year contract extension worth $140.63 million. That makes him the highest paid offensive lineman in NFL history. The deal includes $88.24 million guaranteed. At the Olympics, U.S. men's basketball team now 2-0 after a 103-86 win over South Sudan. Women's soccer team's 3-0 after beating Australia 2-1. U.S. swimmer Katie Ledecky won her 8th career Olympic gold medal, taking the 1,500-meter freestyle. freestyle. And this morning, the U.S. took gold in men's 4 rowing. That is now 6 gold medals, 31 total medals for the U.S. in Paris. Baseball games of note, Yankees wrap up a sweep of the NL East, leading Phillies with a 6-5 win. Orioles beat the Blue Jays 10-4, so Baltimore still a half game up on New York for first in the AL East. Astros beat the Pirates 5-4, while the Mariners lost to the Red Sox 3-2 in 10 innings, so Houston moves back into a tie with Seattle for the top spot in the AL West.
Inside the Locker Room with former Crimson Tide basketball coach Wimp Sanderson and his son, former SEC and ACC assistant basketball coach Barry Sanderson. It's time to take you inside the locker room on your home for Alabama sports. Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to the second hour of Inside the Locker Room. Allstate Insurance agent Andrew Kniffer will help kick us off this 8 o'clock hour. If you need insurance, let Andrew and his staff take great care of you. If you're not satisfied with who you have, then I highly recommend Andrew Kniffer and Allstate Insurance. 205-722-9201 or go to the Facebook page, Andrew Kniffer, Allstate Insurance. He will take absolutely great care of you. All right, get to the Allstate hotline and get Philip in. Good morning, Philip.
Good morning, gentlemen. Hope y'all doing good.
We're good.
Okay.
Barry and Wimp, in y'all's opinion, would it be fair to say that the wild, wild west days of the NIL are possibly coming to a close, or at least getting cleaned up?
Well, they're trying to curb it as best they can, and they don't have the help of the Senate or anybody like that. And I think they've done the best job they can of curbing it and making it a rule. So if you break that rule of the money that you give them, then the penalties come to you. So I would say yes, you're right. It's come as close as they possibly can to being sure that they have a standard way to doing things.
Well, they're not going to take away the opportunities. Like I think Jalen Milroe and I believe it's Terrion Arnold with Lank. I'm sure they make all the money off the shirts and stuff that are bought on that, and that's what true NIL is. If you can come up with something like that and people buy it, then you make the money. So that's not that hard to regulate. Just based on whatever they sell, they get the percentage of that. But just giving guys money or paying them to go to a birthday party and you're giving them $15,000. I think I'm hoping those days may go away, but make it true NIL.
That's right, and it'll be interesting to know just how educated the prospects are getting debriefed on this new evolution. I wonder if they are being debriefed like they should be. I would imagine some schools are and some schools aren't, but that's going to be an interesting thing to watch. And it needed to get cleaned up, and it is interesting to see how it just sort of materialized on its own and didn't take any great star power from Washington to get it done.
Yeah,
well, you're going to see people going in there, kids going in there saying, "I thought this and I thought that."
That's right.
They told me this, they told me that. And, brother, it some places, not all places, it's going to cause some real problems.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with JC. If it is 200 schools, that's a lot of kids. So I think they got to get it on the campuses where Alabama they decide if they have a question about it, hey, is this going to be legitimate? Then they go to the SEC. And the SEC looks at it. The SEC communicates with whoever the NCAA, and they get back and get them an answer there. I think you got to have it on the schools, then the school relies on the conference, and the conference, if they have a question, then they can rely, and everything's got to be above board. I don't think these schools, some of them will be aggressive with it, but if you get caught breaking the rules, a guy taking money he shouldn't take, if that falls back on the head coach's contract of breaking NCAA rules and they got a chance to lose these $9 million jobs, I would think these guys would be pretty serious about making sure everything was on the up and up.
I sure would, too. And I look forward to this getting cleaned up. It needed to. And also, are you guys going to watch the 3-on-3 basketball in the Olympics? That might be kind of interesting.
I don't even know who's playing for the
I've
Americans.
watched it a little bit, and the women and men both have lost.
Who's on the team?
I think Jimmer Fredette is on.
Jimmer Fredette?
Yeah. I heard that he was on. I need to look up the other two who's on there, whoever, how many they got on the team.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not. Probably not. I don't. I like the gymnastics, like the swimming. I'm looking forward to the track and field, and the volleyball's been pretty good as well. But 3-on-3 basketball, I mean, I got nothing going on, but I'm not going to make a special effort to watch that.
It's Jimmer Fredette, Canyon Barry, some guy named Kareem Maddox, and a guy named Dylan Travis.
Huh.
Apparently. Yeah. I guess you get a substitute in there or something, but I don't know. That might be kind of interesting. I always like to play 3-on-3 basketball, but that'll be fun to watch. And the Americans, of course, beat the West Sudan last night by 15, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't 29.5. They started out on fire, but so they ended up starting Jason Tatum in that game. So anyway, and I guess the kid for the Sixers didn't play because he's bigger and they probably have a hard time defending those guys out on the floor. So it looks like it's going to be game to game as to who they play. So they're going to win the goal.
Yeah, I watched some video yesterday of the practice, and all eyes were on Ryan Williams and Caleb Odom, and it looked like they looked pretty smooth. But as far as the music goes, I tell you what, if I was one of those players out there, I'd want some of that music just to keep me going and in a rhythm in that unbelievable heat.
Yeah, I hear what people are saying about the music. People say, well, we go play in these stadiums that are loud. But when I had music at my camp. There's nothing. But, like, when you're trying to teach something, though, and that music's blaring, it's hard to teach. I'm like, hey, cut that music off. Let me teach what we're doing. Then you can turn the music back on. So when you're playing in the game, you're not teaching. At that point, you already learned but when you got to learn, sometimes the music to me would be a distraction, but I guess it's not. So.
Yeah, running those drills, I think it's good. You need a little rhythm, but when you're trying to get their attention, you got to cut the speakers off then.
There you go. Thank you, Philip.
Y'all have a great day.
Thank you.
All right.
And now, Barry, 600,000 is the
600. No, not 600,000. $600.
I mean, $600. I think 600,000. I'm sorry. $600 is the amount that you can give NIL, right? They're going to try to pass that. Is that correct?
No. They're saying, like, if I go do a NIL deal and I get $500, then I don't have to get that approved. They can just pay me $500. Anything over $600, which if you pay somebody over $600, they're supposed to report that on their taxes. So anything over $600 has to be approved. If that's what was in the settlement that the NCAA would get, but now that's all given to the judge now for the judge to make the final ruling on everything. So anything.
The thing is $600 that I can make for that year, but
not year, just for that. For that, whatever I go do, they're going to pay me $5,000 to do it. Then I got to get that approved. If they're going to pay me $550, then I don't have to get that approved. That makes sense.
Yeah, but the guys ministering that never going. He'll never get. They'll never get through that. They got a special minister for that. That's not realistic.
Yeah, it's tough. All right, let's go to Kalen DeBoer. Let's just go to his opening statement yesterday after a 2-hour practice. Talk about how hot it was out there, and it is hot out there right now. Here's Kalen DeBoer.
Still good morning, right? Yeah. Good morning. I think just like most first practices, great energy. Guys were excited to get out there. I can't remember really many times where you had to coach up the excitement and passion. That was all there. These guys have worked hard. We're excited about practice one. So, always going to be far from perfect, but each side had its moments and, made plays, and that's what you want. I love being the head coach in those times, right? Because the assistants, they want every play to be perfect. And so, they win half, they lose half the time. I get to win all the time because I just choose the side that wins on that play. But no, it's good having that give and take. And, I felt that's what we had. And, just welcome to the South, right? For me in particular, just practice and a little bit warmer than the rest of the summer. It hit us here with practice one. So guys grinded through it. I thought actually they kept getting stronger as the day went on, which is what you want to see. And, they kept their spirits high through the very last rep.
All right, Chase, let's go down to the third one on the coaching staff and the adjustments to fall practice. Let's hear what Coach DeBoer had to say there.
No, you won't see me like that. That's his thing. I'll just let him do that. I think the strength staff, Coach Ballou, he's been doing this here now. He knows what it takes, what that looks like throughout the summer, even going back into the winter. It's getting football shape, and you try to replicate it as best you can. And I know he's all over it, but there's still something about putting pads on, having that helmet on. Some guys wear a mask and, just breathing through that even, having a mouthpiece in, all that good stuff. So these guys, they had a good day out there today.
All right. And then lastly, let's go down where it talks about his relationship with Jalen Milroe. I don't know if you see that kind of a little bit down there. All right, here's what Coach DeBoer said about that relationship.
I just try to, most racks, when I talk about rack, it's, 4 or 5 play sequence or a drive. In practice, I just love following up with him. And he just takes all the coaching. And he knows when I coach him up, that's my job. We talk about, teaching and critiquing and demanding, excellence and the best. And he takes that, and every play looking for it, and working to be better. I thought he had a really solid day all around. And I know he's far from reaching what he'll be even come next week, much less the first game.
All right, that question, people talk about when you go out there and you watch a Coach Saban practice, everybody's on edge. It sounds like in a Kalen DeBoer practice, it's a little more laid back, just a different philosophy.
Well, I think the biggest thing is that he doesn't mind. I step in and give my opinion as the head coach, and the guy that's in charge of the defense understands that. I think it's not a situation where somebody on his staff is saying, I'm coaching this team. But he is able, in his own way, to step in, and he's an offensive-minded guy, but to step in and talk about the defense or talk to a player, and the guy that's the defense coordinator understands that. I think that's big there.
I think these guys.
He's doing Warmack for a long time. He's been knowing.
Yeah, I think Coach Saban. I think these guys. I don't want to say coached with fear, but you knew that something didn't go right. The coach might light you up. Maybe Coach DeBoer will. Time will tell. I don't see those guys. I think they'd be a little freer with their coaching. They're not going to be afraid that they're going to get lit up if something goes wrong, where Coach Saban could light you up now. We've seen the rants on the sideline, and maybe Kalen DeBoer does that as well. It just seems like it's a little bit different. Would you agree to that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you want to do it correctly, but if you did it wrong, your coach would step in with maybe a little bit different mannerism, and then everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their own way of doing things. It's not either one of them wrong. You coach the way you feel that you need to coach, and I think that in both cases, past cases and the cases yesterday, are that came about. He goes to the defense. He can't. Steve Spurrier, I think I'm correct, stayed on the offensive end of the field the whole time. He never went down to the defensive end of the field. He can correct me if I'm wrong. But when Kalen goes down there, he goes down there to be sure the defensive people get a feel for him.
Yeah. All right, we'll take the break here. Tuscaloosa, get Lance Cormier in. We'll flip or talk a little baseball with Lance. Tuscaloosa Toyota. Go to TuscaloosaToyota.com. Don't pay the high rental car price. You can rent that car right there at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You're looking to rent the truck, the Camry, the SUV. You can try it out, and then you decide whether you want to buy it or not. 205-561-2034. You're also at the website. You can look at the new inventory, the pre-owned inventory. You can schedule a service as I said, you can rent the Toyota. But swing by there, see Justin, see David. These guys are starting it's a new month. So I'm sure by the time this month's over, they'll be at 300-something cars sold. These guys do a great job for the community here. So swing by there today and tell them that Wimp and Barry sent you. Listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
We have picked up a minor accident along northbound Highway 69 at Canterbury Road in Tuscaloosa. Doesn't look to be causing any major problem spots there, but a right turn lane in that northbound direction was being blocked there last.
Doors open up at 3 p.m. Tickets are $10 with proceeds benefiting the Tuscaloosa Metro Animal Shelter. Learn more at ashfest.org.
This report is sponsored by KFC.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. A heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Heat index values today approaching 110. It's going to be partly cloudy, hot and humid with a high near 97. A few isolated storms may form in the I-59 corridor early this afternoon. They'll push to the southeast. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a low near 77. And tomorrow, mostly sunny and hot again with a high near 98. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
You're listening to Inside the Locker Room with Wimp and Barry, only on Tide 100.9 and streaming on the Tide 100.9 app.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, we'll get right up to the Yellowwood hotline and bring in a good friend of mine. He's obviously does a great job on TV now, calling all baseball. I know he did the NCAA tournament, does a lot of Alabama games, former Alabama pitcher. This guy was drafted, Dad, 3 times. I don't know if I knew anybody that was drafted 3 times. Lance Cormier. Good morning, Lance. How are you?
Morning. How y'all doing?
How many guys have been drafted 3 times, Lance?
A lot more than you think. Guys that were semi-good enough to get drafted, but not good enough to leave as a junior.
Yeah.
So that's how that works.
Well, let's talk draft a minute. They used to have 40 rounds. Now there's only 20, so a lot of guys aren't getting drafted anymore. Of course, they can sign as free agents, but they have these slots, I guess, where there's certain salaries and certain slots. They don't have to pay you that much. You can negotiate, but a guy like Ben Hess was pretty high draft pick with the Yankees, got a big sign-in bonus there. But just, I guess if you have eligibility yet left and you can go back to go back to college, you have a little more negotiating power. They just kind of talk us through the process and how all that works.
Yeah, so you just said 40 rounds. So, and when you say, hey, how do you get drafted 3 times? Well, take it all the way back to high school. Like, it used to go, for me, when I was in high school, there was, I think at one point, 70, 80 rounds. And at one point in the draft, there was as many rounds as you wanted. Like if the team wanted to keep picking, like you would just fall out. You're like, hey, we're the Indians and we don't want to pick anymore. All right, our draft is over. And then the other 28 teams, and then eventually you're down to 2 teams picking. And if you wanted to keep filling your farm system, you could. So that's how you draft. And so that's where the draft has gone from all that to 20. So you're starting to see, and then like you just mentioned, the slot value, yes, it is a recommended pick because these teams have like a bonus pool where they can only spend so much money. It's not like they have unlimited amount of funds to spend on their 20 draft picks. And so you see a lot of times things like what happened to Ben Hess is kind of a deal agreed upon. I think his slot was like 3-something and he went for like 2-something. And so you see players agree to a below slot deal because they want to be drafted at that time, and that's a guaranteed way to get drafted. You agree to that below slot deal. And when they do that, that allows teams to, let's say, pick a high school kid who might have a really high slot value or might have a really high number, and you're like, man, we just can't pick him in that slot value. We're not even picking that high. And they go and they draft him in the 6th round because no one else wanted to pay him that money, and they have extra money in their pool. They can go pay somebody in the 6th round, in the 18th round. I mean, it's really cool to kind of go and see who signed for what, and was it above slot, was it below slot? And other than now, which kind of has gone away from when I was drafted as a senior, there was about 5 to 7 years where seniors they weren't making exactly what juniors in college and high school kids were, but, they were still paying seniors respectable. Now it's getting to the point back again where, like I saw where a kid, senior in college was drafted in like the 7th round. They gave him $2,000. And I was like, that's just, that's a slap in the face, even though it saves, draft money, but still. So these kids learn really fast that this is a business first thing and is a multi-billion-dollar business, and yes, you're a player and everything, but you become a number, and it's business first.
Yeah, I see Ben Hess. I'm looking here. He signed for $2,747,000 as the 26th pick overall, which was probably below slot value. I saw a high school kid in Louisiana, I think, or from Mississippi, that signed with LSU. Got over $6 million. Of course, he could have gone to LSU, so they got to pay him, right, Lance, or he just won't come, and they would have wasted a high draft pick. Just kind of talk about who handles that. The agents. These guys know beforehand that when I draft this guy, he is going to sign with us, so we can get the numbers right.
Yeah, you'll go through. I mean, the agents, agents try to get a number, right? So let's just say, you hopefully you go through it. I have one that's 1 year behind yours, and he's going to the East Coast Pro event this weekend where it's run by scouts, and so they're going to teach a lot of things. But going through it 3 times, I kind of understand the process. These scouts try to do everything they can to get a number basically on you. So let's say they'd be talking to you going, hey, what will it take Jack to sign for? What will it take Jack to sign for? And the moment you bring out a number, then they're like, all right, okay, is Jack worth that number? Hey, then every other outing he has, it's like, all right, is Jack worth that number? Jack worth that number? He's worth more, so then that number's going to be good. Or, hey, that number is scaring teams off, and so then they don't pick him. So you have that. Yes, they're talking to the agent, the advisor, or whatever. You can't technically have an agent while you're an amateur, right? So they're advisors, but it's the same thing. It's the same guys. Actually talking to one agent right now, trying to help him with former pitcher, and then to help him with a high school kid now to basically take him on as clients. And so they're just talking to them, and eventually it comes down to those the draft day, and that's why these kids, they're sitting there, and because they've already gotten the phone calls saying, hey, will you agree to this? If you do, we're going to take you. And so these agents are doing everything they can, talking to these advisors, saying, putting this number, saying, if we take you here, will you do it? Because you're right, they don't want to waste a draft pick now that there's only 20, and that's why you don't see many guys. I think I saw as of Tuesday, there was only 9 or 10 guys in the top 10 rounds that weren't signed. And I think you just mentioned the Connor Griffin kid that signed 6. He was one of them, and that's a guaranteed. He wasn't going to not sign. But I think there's the Prager from A&M in the 3rd round is not going to sign, but he was a redshirt sophomore, so he's got 2 years of eligibility. And so, but you got to think when you used to have 40, 50 picks, all right, cool, you can still fill your farm system. But when you only have 20 picks and you get 1 or 2 don't sign, that's pretty big, and that's hard. So these teams, they do their homework, and they know exactly what it's going to take. But then again, they're trying to save money on that slot value so they can possibly overpay for guys when it comes down to this Thursday deadline when they have to sign.
Yeah, that.
I know that you draft to your needs. I got all that before I asked this. But I would like to know, in football, the draft's all around the quarterbacks. Let's forget the pitchers in this draft. My guess is that people, regardless of needs or whatsoever, that the most important 2 positions, and I'm interested to be corrected, that people try to draft for, I've already told you what I think, would be shortstop and catcher. Leave out the pitchers. And I know it's according to what you need. Am I wrong?
No, you're on the right thinking. I would add in the center fielder. So, to me, the most you saw a lot of high school outfielders be taken early in the draft. So you got, to me, it's center fielder because guess what? I mean, and for the most part, you're not drafting a high school second baseman or maybe a college second baseman. But what you do is you take the center field, the shortstop, and he can play pretty much any of the four. You take the center fielder, and if he's that good, he can go play the other two. And so that's why I think you take those guys, because your teams are, and like the same coach, the same thought that you just had the catcher, you always hear, right? Your teams are built up the middle, shortstop, catcher, and center fielder. If you can have defense up the middle, everything else will start to, play out. Now, catcher has got to be one of the toughest things to do and to evaluate, especially at the high school level, because you're not catching the quality of pitching that, necessarily a college guy would. So you think a college kid catch, high-level stuff every outing, and then the catcher might have one good pitcher on his team, or yes, he does in the summer ball, but then you get to pro ball, and it's like, my gosh, everybody throws hard and has great stuff. So that's a tough evaluating. But shortstop, man, if you're a dad, you tie up the right hand, let him throw left-handed, and if he's right-handed, let him play short in center field, and that's probably the ticket to go.
Yeah, all right, Lance, the 34 scholarships. I think it's a great thing. I hope the SEC goes to 34 fulls. But it is going to be interesting to see, now these SEC schools, they can have 40. They're bringing in 50 guys and basically having a tryout, and then they get it down to 40 after the fall. Two questions. One, have you heard anything about when they have to get to the 34? And then if these guys are getting full scholarships now, I don't think these guys will get in the portal quite as easy. Now, I'm leaving a full scholarship. I better have somewhere to go. And also with the draft, if I can get all my school paid for, will that keep guys in college now a little bit more if they're not getting the money that they really want?
Okay, so let's go the 34. I believe, from what I'm hearing, is it's going to be not this year, but the next year, so August of 2025, let's say the seniors in high school right now, when they enroll in college, it's a hard cap at 34.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm hearing. So that's going to be tough, because if you have any kind of injury, where just a rash of injuries where all of a sudden you lose 3-5 players, it's like now you're down to 30. And so I believe 100% you're talking ACC, SEC schools, they'll go to 34 fulls, which is amazing, to think about for a coaching staff, players, families. I mean, again, as I'm trying to enter into that thing going, man, this would be unbelievable to think about, man, I have to pay nothing for my son's schooling. When we were at the Super Regionals in Texas A&M, my dad and I, the Texas A&M director of operations gave us a tour, and he was talking about these things. And then you add in the revenue money, the revenue sharing money. He said, every athlete at A&M, so every baseball player is going to be on full scholarship, and they're going to get $38,000 a year, 31 plus the Alston money. And it's man, how that is unbelievable that you're going to go on a full scholarship and you're going to get $38,000. So just think, as a parent, 4 years, I mean, they're past 150 something thousand. You haven't paid for school. They've gotten every meal for free. That is unbelievable. So now, come to these smaller schools, I believe, talking to a couple coaches, that they're definitely going to increase from the 11.7, but you're not going to see 34 scholarships at mid-major programs, let's say like Sanford or a UAB, Troy, those type. They might be at 18, which is still great. I mean, these coaches are going to think they've hit the lottery instead of having to juggle so many scholarship names and numbers and families into that 11.7. But I think it's going to be an amazing thing. And for the draft, that's exactly what I've told you about the Ryan Prager thing is. He's at Texas A&M, which probably has the most NIL money out there. If not, they're right at the top. And you got a guy that's a sophomore that has eligibility. He was your best pitcher, took you to Omaha, the championship game, and you're like, hey, you don't like where you're going to sign. By the way, you could come back here and make this much money. It makes it a lot easier for a player to go, all right, I'll bank on myself again and go back to school, but also because the risk is not as much because I'm getting, a couple $100,000 to go back to school and live that college life again.
Yeah, that.
I don't know how much do you keep up a lot with the major leagues right now?
A little bit. It's hard.
I was a Cleveland Indians fan, and I am right now. And it's amazing to me how well they have done this year. And I haven't kept up with them as close as I used to, but But I know the Braves are down. That's what everybody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to hear about Cleveland. But it's been amazing to me the movement that they've had. It may not be a good question because you probably don't keep up with it like that. But these things go up and down, don't they?
They really do. Well, I mean, heck, you're starting to see. I mean, Cleveland's got one of the youngest managers, and a guy they took a huge chance on, had never even coached before, Stephen Vogt. And that's what you're starting to see, is because it's such an analytical game. But when you have a guy that can just steer the ship, that's really only I don't want to take a lot from the managers, but I mean, like, that's what they're having to do. They're not having to do very much of anything, because analytics will basically tell them who hits when, who plays where, what pitcher comes in at what point. You just have to keep 26 egos and attitudes and everything going in the right direction. And I think that's why you're seeing younger coaches in all sports, right? And to match with what the generation and the style of things that the kids and the young adults, like in professional baseball, are going through, is because it's totally different than when you coach, when I played, and all those things. Like, those are things that we never had to think about, deal with, and now these coaches have all that on top of, oh, by the way, you still have to perform. And so steering that ship, and these younger managers are doing such a good job. And when you're seeing managers under 40, coaching in the big leagues, and like, that's unbelievable. Like, we used to not have managers that were really under 50, 55. It was a lot older game when I was playing, and I think that's a big thing, is that analytics, you're just needing that bus driver basically to steer the ship and keep everything going in the right direction.
Well, I think analytics is in pitching. I know it was there when you were there and so forth, but I think it's just doubled over the last few years. The analytics factors, I don't know enough about it to even talk about it really, but it seems to me like that's really a big deal.
It's huge. They had analytics, like Tampa Bay was kind of, Oakland gets a lot of credit. They were a little bit more analytical when it came to like hitting and on-base percentage, but Tampa Bay was one of the first ones that was about like pitching, but all it was pitching to, basically my numbers were better against lefties, so I was a reverse split guy. They would rather me face a lefty than face a righty. So I played well. I was the guy that I was the second lefty in the bullpen basically, or if there was a switch hitter, I would face them. Then I would say, like, yes, in the last 3 years, it is more than quadrupled in how important it is, and sometimes now, or how important they feel it is. I still think there's some part of the game where that manager used to walk to the mound and look at that pitcher in his eyes and say, hey, what you think? And you could tell by the way he answered that question if he was going to leave the game. Nowadays, I can almost guarantee you 99% of the time when that manager walks out there, college coach manager, he's taking him out, as opposed to just getting that gut feel and trusting his gut and even looking at the catcher and saying, hey, does he got another hitter? And the catcher being honest and saying, yes, sir, he does, because he's the one catching the stuff. So I believe the analytics is playing a huge deal in the game, but there's still that gut feeling that you got to have as a manager, and that's why you see the guys like Brian Snitker stick around and win 6 championships in a row, because that dude is a baseball lifer that just knows the game.
Lance, with these new rules in college baseball, I think the Alabama and the Auburn jobs just got better. The lottery stuff doesn't matter as much anymore. If you can give them full scholarships, then I think it kind of evens the playing field along the SEC. Now, maybe they got better NIL deals at LSU and in Tennessee. Maybe they got to get that up there as well. And I've been very impressed with Rob Vaughn. I've gotten to spend a lot of time with him. A really, really good guy. I think this guy's going to do great things here at Alabama. Just your thoughts about those two things.
I totally agree on the jobs for Alabama and Auburn definitely got a little easier. Now, saying easier in the SEC when you're bringing in Oklahoma and Texas, 2 other dominant powerhouse programs in pretty much every sport. But yes, that's one thing that has been plagued the Alabama and Auburn coaches and held above their heads, and everything is there's no lottery, and they only play with 11.7. Now that's going to be gone. Now, I believe what I'm hearing is they're trying to curb the NIL, right? Where NIL is going to be NIL for a reason, like because you are that good, you go get that car dealership, and you do a commercial, but like I can't pay you $100,000 because I would not pay Barry Sanderson $100,000 for his car, this commercial. So I've heard things like that whispers. Now I think that's going to be a lot harder to wrap up, but yes, that's why I think you're seeing Vanderbilt come back to life a little bit, because when NIL came into play and everybody else could start paying players enough money to give them full scholarships, like Vanderbilt, pretty much has since Coach Corbin figured it out, and props to him for figuring it out when he did, because he basically took Vanderbilt and put them at the top of the class when they weren't even a thought, in the SEC when we were in school. But now, yes, I believe every team's going to be on the same footing. Now, you still have schools like Mississippi State, LSU, Arkansas, and A&M that are going to spend more money. Tennessee is going to spend more money, and their stadiums are going to be nicer than everybody else's stadiums. And that's where it's going to be. It's just going to be an arms race. Going back to that A&M, they were saying they're putting in $80 to $100 million into their new locker room, their new indoor, their new all this stuff for baseball, because he's like, sooner or later, you just can't go back to the well and keep tapping these donors for NIL money, stadiums, all these things like that. He said they were trying to get, 5 to 6 years past everybody. And then that way, when people finally caught up, they were in a position, all right, now we can go 5, 10 more years ahead of them again. Like cryotherapy and sleep tubes and all these things that you hear that these players could possibly want and need, they were going to have it. And A&M's got so much room and space and money. Boy, it's going to be fun to watch what they can do, because when I was over there thinking as a player, if they told me and showed me all that, man, it'd be hard to say no to them. And no matter how quirky their school is, it's a place that you would want to go play at.
Yeah, no doubt. And then lastly, Rob Vaughn, 1 year here, took them to the tournament, took them to the NCAA. Just your thoughts about what you've seen with Coach Vaughn and his staff.
Yeah, sorry about that. I forgot about that question. Coach Vaughn and his staff, I love what they're doing. They're recruiting at a higher level than I think has been done in a long time in Alabama. And not saying that Coach Bohannon and staff before that didn't recruit good, but these guys are doing a much better job. And again, you got a couple young guys like Mike Morrison and Anthony Papio, these guys that are in charge of recruiting. Coach Vaughn's even a younger coach to kind of tap in with JJ's the older statesman at like 45, 46 years old, and that's still young in this game. And so I do believe this program's headed in the right direction. But again, as fans, they want to see results and wins, and going to super regionals or higher is kind of where everybody kind of puts the measuring stick. But still, when you look at what the SEC what you have to go through, you can be so much better than you were the past years. But guess what? So are the other, now 14, 15 other schools. And so it's just tough. Baseball's a tough game. The best team doesn't always win because you run across a good pitcher and you catch a slump as a hitter at the wrong time and you're not winning. And so, but I believe right now Alabama baseball is in good hands with Coach Vaughn and the rest of his staff doing what they're doing. And it's just energy. When you just think of, one word to kind of describe them when you're around them, it's just energy, and they all have it, and like it exudes out to you. And so it's like, man, I'm energized too after you sit there and talk with them and visit with them and see them on the field. They just do everything, and I think that's what it talks. You got to have that until the program all of a sudden has its own energy, and then as a staff you can go, all right, we can feed off of our program's energy. But right now they're doing a great job of invoking that energy in there.
Tell about what you're doing now, Lance.
Oh, man, just about to be finishing first year. Back to my roots. My degree was finance, and after the gym, got involved in financial planning, and so actually starting in a new firm today called Patterson Andrews Wealth Management, and August 1st, today, right? Have basically started, but starting to do that. But yeah, do everything when it comes to, always try to say, when it comes to finances, if you think about it, we can do it. And so if anybody has anything they want to talk about, whether it's retirement, whether it's some kind of risk management, insurance, just any kind of investment, anything that you want to do, getting on a budget, give me a call, 205-329-683.
Thank you, Lance.
Thanks. Oh, y'all have a good day.
Thank you, buddy. All right, there's Lance Cormier. He does an outstanding job. Man, he's really good on TV as well. All right, let's hear about Bryant Bank before we get to break.
Well, the 4 locations in Tuscaloosa and the locations in Birmingham are the ones that I see the most, and most of our listeners see those too. Go into a fine bank with a fine banker. The people surrounding that banker know what exactly can help you in any way, whether you want to borrow money, put more money in your bank, take money out, whatever it needs to be done. You could bank around the clock. They'll be darn sure that the fraud that comes into bankers or to banks throughout this country is taken care of and that your money is safe there. They're the kind of people that I think that they have the same area code, basically, the same zip code that you have. So they're one of you. They help the schools in a lot of cases, especially in Tuscaloosa, to do things for the schools. So it's your bank, and hopefully that you'll go by there and tell them that you heard it inside the locker room, and that if you need banking help, that you'll go by and join up with Tuscaloosa or Birmingham, wherever it might be, and go to the Bryant Bank and tell them you heard it on inside the locker room.
All right. I need to talk about something controversial. I'll throw it out there, people. An Italian woman quits boxing match against a man allowed to compete as a woman at the Olympics. She gets in there and she's fighting against a guy who's now a woman, and she just
high quality ingredients. We want to say that sounds great. We've been doing that since 1974.
Under the biggest cactus in town, Taco Casa.
Road tripping, business travel, or bringing your car in for repairs. All great reasons to rent a Toyota at Tuscaloosa Toyota. You can rent the latest Toyota models for a day, a week, or a weekend. Every Toyota rental-car comes with 24 hours roadside assistance.
You earn, we match. Discover Cashback Match. See terms at discover.com/credit card.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org.
Follow Tide 100.9 on Facebook today to watch our live shows, read the great articles, and interact with Bama fans today.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. So they'll get practicing out there. I think they let the media out there a little after 9. One day I'm going to ride out there and watch a little bit of practice as well. We talked about the beginning of the show. I don't know if you missed it. There's an article on AL.com. The guy, talked about Kane Wommack and used some of the profanity he was using, coaching his guys. I hope that stuff goes away. What's said out there does not need to be reported. This guy's trying to coach, and he can't worry about whether he can trust whether you're going to print something like that or not. But then I think they're going to have some of the assistants and players. So there should be a lot of information come out, about Alabama football from different voices, where it won't just be one voice this year. I think that can be good. I think it can also backfire as well, because they're going to hang on every word that these assistant coaches say and hold them to it when the season starts. Just your thoughts. Would you, if you had to do it today, would you go to one voice? I think you let your assistants talk as well, but how would you do it these days? Would you do it like Nick Saban?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it's the personality of the head coach, and I think his personality is let everybody talk. I think the personality of coaches was not, and he worked for Bill Belichick, and Bill Belichick said one voice. I don't want the defensive coordinator getting up there talking about what we did wrong defensively. I'll talk about that. So there's two ways to look at it, and it's, I don't know whether one's worse than the others. I would probably give some of my assistants the opportunity to say what they needed to. Because I know that players are listening to them and that are recruiting. I was always thinking about recruiting first. So probably, I think the one thing about it, if we are able to get what they say each day, and hopefully today, and play it on our radio show tomorrow, that it gives us an opportunity for them to really, all of our people who listen to our show, to listen to what has been said by various assistant coaches. I hope we can get that done today, and that way, because we generally on Fridays we don't have quite as many guests as I need to have, and Sundays always sometimes not. So I think it's fine. I think it's just the personality of the head coach and the way he has done things, the way he feels about things. I can tell you in a very, very nice way that Kalen DeBoer told us yesterday that the weather was hot.
Yeah. And they dressed in all the sweats, and I think, like I said, I think they wanted to send the players a message, hey, we know it's hot, and we're going to wear this and be out here sweating with you. But I had somebody just text me, I just don't – if these guys are out there coaching their guys really hard and they get after them and they use some profanity, I don't think that's worth writing. I think you have to have common sense. And so if you continue to do that, then I think they're going to start to shut the media out and just say, look, you can come in and watch the stretching, but I'm not going to let you watch me coaching and drill and coaching with some passion and all, which these guys do. And sometimes they say some things, and that's part of it. That's for inside those gates, and they let you in there for a reason, just to kind of watch. So I think they better be careful that they don't overdo it with what they put out there. And I don't like it when they start trying to put out who's running out there first and trying to play like they know who's going to start and those things. Just let that stuff play out because these kids read it. It's just, it's okay if you want to do that, who lined up first, but I wouldn't read a lot into that stuff right now. I would take this last break and come back and wrap up the show. It's the Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports.
Tide 100.9 traffic.
Tuscaloosa traffic now from the Townsend Nissan Traffic Center. Our accident along Highway 69 and Canterbury Road still working, although it does look like they have that lane back open to traffic, and we're really not seeing a whole lot of backup there. Meantime, if you're traveling along 2059 from Foster's to McFarland, that's 8 minutes, and also 8 minutes westbound from Cottondale to the I-359 interchange. McFarland Boulevard is 14 minutes from Coker to Jack Warner. With your Tuscaloosa traffic now, I'm Ray Romero.
Coming up on The Game with Ryan Fowler.
Coming up on The Game, starting at 2 p.m., defensive players and assistant coaches on the platform. We're going to be there to cover you. Alabama practice number 2. We'll get reaction from Rodney Orr, TiderInsider.com, Nick Kelly, AL.com, and a lot more with your call starting at 2 p.m. on The Game on Tide 100.9, 1230 WTBC, your home of Alabama Crimson Tide Sports.
The longest running sports program.
Or you can shop online at TuscaloosaCDJR.com. At Tuscaloosa Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, Ram, you pick it out and we'll work it out. Roll Tide.
Serving part-time in the Army National Guard has led to a lot of firsts for me. It paid for me to be the first person in my family to go to school. That education got me to the first day at my dream job, which I can still hold while I serve part-time. That job and the home loan benefits I got from the Army National Guard helped me buy my first house.
Smell good. I feel good, too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Tide 100.9 Tuscaloosa weather.
Good morning. A heat advisory is in effect until 9 p.m. this evening. Heat index values today approaching 110. It's going to be partly cloudy, hot and humid with a high near 97. A few isolated storms may form in the I-59 corridor early this afternoon. They'll push to the southeast. Tonight, mostly clear skies with a low near 77. And tomorrow, mostly sunny and hot again with a high near 98. I'm meteorologist Bill Murray on Tide 100.9.
Two-time state champion and two-time NIT champion Barry Sanderson breaks down the latest in sports on Inside the Locker Room on Tide 100.9.
Welcome back to Inside the Locker Room. All right, so they have the defensive coaches and the defensive players. This, Chase, when you have press conferences every day, and I don't know if they're going to be every day, but obviously I think they'll probably have the offense and the offensive guys tomorrow. Then, it ends up putting a lot of work on you having to be down there. So if you get down there now and you get to watch the first 20 minutes of practice or 20 minutes, you get 20 minutes. So you got to kind of stay down there until practice is over in order to get your interviews done. So that it's going to require a lot more time. When you let more people talk, you got to spend more time down there as well.
You got to stay there longer. It's good and bad, everything, isn't it?
Yeah, so it's good if, to get all the content, but it's also, after a while, you're going to be like, good gosh, I hope they don't have them speak today. I don't want to go back down there today. I just filled my tank up 3 times going back and forth down there.
I got to, because my opposing papers, their guy's going to be there. He's a little young punk, and he's just starting out.
Yeah, and he's eager. So anyway, here's got some watermelon in there. All right, that's it. We're going to get out of here. We'll make way for the Gary Harris Show. I think I saw where Gary's got my man Josh Wright on this morning. So I look forward to hearing from Coach. I hadn't talked to Coach in a while. All right, that's it for today's show. Thank you, Chase. We appreciate Lance Cormier. We appreciate JC being on with us today. You listen to Tide 100.9. It's the home of Alabama sports. Have a great day, everybody.